What do you think you would have submitted Craig Jones with on that day?
Anything I wanted, man.
Yeah,
the skill gap between us in that point in time was immeasurable.
$1,001, $1,002, $1,003, $1,004. Whoa. Guys, last night I went down to the MatLab. This is a grappling school in Adelaide owned by Nick Hughes and his wife. Now, Nick Hughes has taught me many things over the years. Two things I walked away with last night. I have to immerse myself in Batman. The second thing I learned was that I have to get bigger biceps. This book's from 1946. If that can't help me, I don't know what can. I've always had great conversations with Nick. He has a very interesting mindset when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Some may say he's autistic, but the way he structures his classes, the way he thinks about jiu-jitsu, he's like a professor, or maybe the world's greatest detective when it comes to being on the mats. Now, whether it's South Australia, Australia-wide, this guy knows a lot about the entire scene. We talk about grappling competitions, the first ones in South Australia. We talk about how the culture of the community in South Australia has changed, which, it's changed drastically. We're almost all friends now. We also talk about Batman and what submission Nick Hughes would have caught Craig in the super fight that never was. I hope you guys enjoy this episode of A Quick Razz. We dive deep, so enjoy. Nick, the Batman Hughes.
It's me, I'm here. I'm wearing my ADCC shirt in protest of you having me on directly after your brother.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm surprised that episode hasn't been cancelled yet. He took me to a dark car park in the Windang Hood, and thankfully there were just utes with bull bars parked around, so we didn't run into any Western Sydney characters. But
you didn't actually tell anyone why you guys were there. Was that specific for the podcast, or was that just like what he decided to do that day?
He is a strange operator, right? So because of all his travel, he wakes up at all these fucking weird hours, and like I wake up early every day for work, so I rarely sleep in. 6 a.m. is a sleep in for me, and he didn't want to film it at the, we'll call them cabins. They're actually, it was nice. He was complaining about it, but you know, Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah, it was a lodge.
Yeah, and I had a nice pool, bro. It was cool. Yeah. But yeah, he was like, if we film it here, we'll wake the others up, which I should have known was a red flag because he doesn't care about anybody else but himself. But yeah, when we were driving there, I was like, fuck, is this going to be like what he made me do for my black belt? You know what I mean?
Again?
Yeah, which was a train of ladyboys in Thailand. But, you know, yeah, no, it was just a bit of fun.
Now, I guess what I was alluding to is like seeing you two in a Windang car park at 3 a.m. in the morning. I guess there's like a pretty specific reason to be there. Yeah.
Oh, look, the drop-off happened after.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Nick, we're here in your gym. Mm-hmm. You've been around for many, many years. I've said it before that I still remember you doing wrestling shoots at a jiu-jitsu comp back in, must have been like 2008.
Yeah.
And we came from a gym where no one wrestled. And I remember looking and seeing you do that, and I'm like, what the hell is that guy doing? Seen you compete for a long time. You sort of stepped away to focus on coaching, MMA, and now you're back doing jiu-jitsu, throwing yourself in with the biggest humans you can possibly find.
Yeah, it's a tough road.
When did you start jiu-jitsu, martial arts? Give us the rundown from the beginning.
That's a long time ago. I was a swimmer when I was a kid, and I was a swimmer at a pretty high level.
Yep.
But as you can see, I'm like 5'8", wearing shoes.
You're built like one of those things you throw in the water and they have to swim down to pick up.
But exactly, and one day no one did, and that's why I quit swimming. Now, I was a sprinter, right? And I had a smart coach. He was the Romanian Olympic coach, and he came down here looking for a challenge, and he looked at my shoulder width, and he was like, butterfly. And I'm like, fuck, this is going to be painful.
Yeah.
But I was just a little kid, so I took everything, on face value, and I learned a lot of extremely good training systems through him. And one of the things he had me doing, and a couple of other kids as well, was cross-training. Cross-training in like boxing, Muay Thai, things that would get your efficiency and your rating up in your upper body and your coordination up. Like if you're a little kid, like 7, 8, 9 years old, which is where the bulk of training takes place when you're swimming, you think about Ian Thorpe being a world champion at 14, think about the absolute ridiculous training they're doing prior to that. Again, our coach, he's a little bit of ahead of the curve with this, so he had us doing that and getting these little kids coordinated. And I found out pretty quickly that I was pretty good at that stuff. But I had quite a lot of success in swimming. I'm not going to say it was a big part of my life when I was a younger man. But when you do a sport like that, you're up and down the black line, you're looking for something else all the time. And I started sort of playing a team sport around 14 and 15, and that's when I started wrestling, right? So I'd been doing boxing and Muay Thai prior to that, and then I started wrestling at 14 with Pavel Lagosky, who was also playing rugby at Burnside Rugby Club, and we would just grapple every day when it was something that people didn't do. Yeah. And he had a job lined up in China, so when I was 17, I started doing jiu-jitsu for the first time, and that was BJJ, Michael Toyama, in the era when they had just moved away from Prospect, and they were in the Mars complex upstairs. Oh, no shit. Yeah, and you had to lay the mats down every day and pull them up every time. There was just, we were roughing it, you know what I mean? And, I got introduced to all the guys there. I got introduced to what jiu-jitsu is as a sport, and coming from wrestling and being no-gi dominant, I had a lot of insights as to handles of the body as opposed to handles of the gi. So I was always attracted more to no gi and that side of things. But there was a lot of technique that I didn't understand, obviously, and jiu-jitsu does that thing to you where it opens up this whole world of stuff and opportunities, and it just hooks you straight in.
This fucking sucks.
And it just gets you there. And look, we dove straight in. We traveled around the country, as you say, just like trying to find competitive opportunities, match after match with just killers when we were little kids, and we didn't really have any opportunities to like compete regularly in this state. The competition that you mentioned, 2008, that was the first ever state championships in the state of South Australia.
I still got that t-shirt somewhere, right?
Dude, I've got it as well. Me and Lachlan Conway fought each other in the white belt final in the gi.
Wow.
So this is what I mean, like, we've been doing it for a really long time, and when you see people who are still in the industry now, you're like, man, there must be something to this guy. So regardless of whether you're from the same gym or not, you have a lot of respect for the people that are around.
Yeah. Except when Conway stares at your toes.
Be careful.
Yeah, you have to be. A bit like me looking at the biceps.
I'm going to draw some nips on you, just for you.
Yeah.
But look, after that, it was just a matter of putting those skills together, right? It was inevitable. And at the time, there was no MMA in the state of South Australia. I appeared on some of the first ever shows that were run. There were some Sanshao shows and some modified MMA that you fought on.
I did, yeah.
And then we had MMA Down Under 1, where I fought Adam Collett.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And we had what was, we had performance of the night bonuses for that match for both of us. And on the second MMA Down Under show, I was meant to fight Kane Gelling.
Oh, no shit.
And he had an unfortunate incident that he had to pull out of the fight. And there was a guy that they brought down from Hong Kong to fight Leo.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And that didn't happen, but they're still bringing him down. And Dave DeConte calls me up like a week before, and he's like, hey, do you want to fight this guy? His name's Kenny Jung. He's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't know anything about, what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. We're just fighting. I think I was like 20.
Yeah.
So I became the main event of that show. And I won that match. And, I went on to win another match in Perth a little later on Super Australia Perth against Patrick Conroy, who was, fighting out of Tiger Muay Thai. He was an Irish guy, lots of striking fights. And I just learned a lot through the process of doing that. And I learned a lot about the reality of fighting. I had those fights, but the camps that I did were immeasurably more important at that point in time, because I began to really understand myself and the way that my brain works. And I was a little bit unconventional. If you imagine, back when we first started, it was like super backwards. You had to do gi in order to do MMA. Like, there was no foot in the door other than that. Like, it was just the Gracies. We didn't understand the whole history of the Gracies at that point in time. If you want to look up Rufino dos Santos, go ahead and do that, and you'll get a little bit more of insight as to what I'm talking about. But that was it. It was like, let's apply our jiu-jitsu in MMA. But no, it was about actually assimilating these skills and progressing the entire skill set into a competitive arena all at the same time. And again, we didn't have that background, so there was no real platform for us to achieve those things. There was a group of us who were, emerging as people who wanted to further ourselves in that realm. And so we did. And we started Trinity MMA, and at that point in time, a couple of things happened with me medically. I won't go too much into it, but I would never lean on that and say that's why I stopped doing MMA, because that's not really the truth. But what it really did do is highlight to me who I was. I was the more analytical guy. I was a strategic guy. So when we're coming in and we're doing sessions, everyone's looking at me like, hey, what are we doing today? And that was a bit of a surprise to me, given that I was a junior and a lot of the people that I was training with were my senior. But I'd been looking up to these guys in the scene for many, many years, like guys that came before us, Brad Thompson, Kim Robinson, Mark O'Callaghan. I could see what the product could be from South Australia. So I put a lot of my eggs in that basket, and I tried to make myself the best coach I could possibly be. And, spent 8 years with Trinity. And the funny thing is, the first match that I had at the black belt level was against Kane Gelling. And it was in that AGC 20-minute submission only super fight, and I ended up getting the submission win in the 18th minute or something like that.
Yeah, no shit,
And the next match that I was meant to have after that was against your brother.
I would have been in your corner.
It's good. 8 years the guy's been ducking me. It's absolutely amazing. He pulled out of a scheduled super fight with me, just sheer fear on his part. And
what do you think you would have submitted Craig Jones with on that day?
Anything I wanted, man. The skill gap between us in that point in time was immeasurable. It still is, but it's, I think I would have got, I would have been more injured from that one match than my entire career. But he scooted off to ADCC and submitted Leandro Lowe or some shit like that.
The kind of put a spanner audacity on the guy, books a match in Adelaide and then goes over and, I still, the funny thing with that is I remember watching that live, and, we all support each other.
Dude.
But we were in Mikhail's apartment and we were all sitting there and we watched him
How is this
submit Leandro Lowe. And we all were cheering, and then there was that moment where we all realised that, Mikhail turns around and looks at us and he goes, we're never going to hit the fucking end of this.
And we never have.
And we never have.
That's good. But it was after that I stopped competing.
Shit.
I stopped competing as a black belt after that for many, many years, and just focused on MMA coaching. And it was only until we opened up the MatLab Grappling Academy that I really began to understand, hey, the game has changed. And potentially because of, Craig Jones and Lachlan Giles that
Let's
run
give Lachlan
ADCC.
Giles props.
Dude,
Need to prop
he
crank up.
changed the world for Australian grappling. You know what I mean? Like, it was after that where we felt like, hey, we can really do this. I want to give some credit to Kit Dale as well. Like Kit and the entire unit that was, I think it was Infinity or something like that, that then became Absolute St Kilda. That group, that core group of guys, they really set the scene for the evolution that was about to take place. And then Giles kind of proved it with that run. And I really understood that, grappling's always been my passion. It's always been the thing that I've been studying the most, the thing that I've focused on the most. I made a quality of life move moving away from Trinity MMA, and I had all of the confidence that guys there like Anthony Bino were going to steer the ship in the right direction. Jake Chenoweth and Tim Rogers there at the time, I knew that they had the passion for MMA and they were going to take it to the next level. I didn't have that passion anymore. My passion was about grappling. And if you look at what they've been able to achieve with the career resurgence of Jake Hurl and the amateur MMA blueprint that is Antonio Cesaro, amazing. You know what I mean? What they've been able to achieve. And I would also put Crane Burke into that as well.
When I'd ever see his name, I was like,
Cesaro.
Is Antonio Caruso dyslexic? Name wrong?
Well, there's a WWE wrestler called Cesaro at the time as well, and no one ever got the joke because pro wrestling wasn't huge, but I got it. So I laughed a lot alone.
It is funny though, because like, look, you don't want to upset I don't really care, but not to upset anybody, but I think there's obviously a lot of people through Australian Jiu Jitsu that have done crazy things, right? And male and female. But I feel like, especially with the way social media started to pop off, and then, there are three key figures that really pop the sport for Australian Jiu Jitsu: Kit Dale, Lockie Giles, and unfortunately Craig Jones. But
if you disagree with that, you're delusional. But there are so many players around the Australian scene that you could point to and give credit to. We could do it all day. The whole podcast could be about that. And they know who they are, and we value them. And that's the cool thing about, I believe, what the potential of the industry in the modern era, right? Because there's a lot of collaborative effort. Cross-training is not an illusion. It is a necessity, right? And when we do collaborate, you get those absolute MMA St. Kildas. And look, what we've been able to achieve here, MatLab under the banner of Jones Jiu Jitsu, with M16, with Beachside, with Ascend, with Ocean Jiu Jitsu, it's like, we're all friends, man. And we want to share this stuff with each other, and we care. And there's things that we do for each other behind the scenes that support that, you know what I mean? And collaboration is the key. It's always been the key. And I'm very happy to be a part of that collaboration now in this modern era. And it's allowed me to have this space as well and be confident with what takes place within the walls of this space. Because all of these people that I've now gained access to have become my mentors. My friends and my peers become my mentors. And the decision for me to step back into the competitive arena, after opening this place up with Jackie, my wife, and setting up the schedule and training every day, I'm like, okay, I need to get out there and I need to compete in the adult black belt ranks with the current best people in this country to make sure I'm bringing back the most relevant possible information to translate to my students. Because if I'm not doing that, I might as well just lock the door and never come back. Like, there's no point in what I've done. And everything changed. Everything changed from that point onwards. And I took my fucking beatings, bro. I lost a lot of matches, you know what I mean? It was hard. Daniel Schwartz, Bob Frias, Jess Smith, like match after match after match. And I'm learning and I'm learning and I'm learning, and it sucks, dude. It does. I wasn't delusional. I didn't think I was going to step back in there and just cream everyone. I knew what it was going to be like. But I was also pleasantly surprised that the work that I had been putting in had paid off. I still look back at that and go, I was a little bit skewed in my mentality towards grappling and jiu-jitsu. I didn't quite know. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And then through the process, I started to understand, okay, this is the reality of things. The way that we set up the structure, you know, allowing people to have influence over your decisions as well when it comes to people know better than you. Jeremy Skinner had a great influence over me in the way that he spoke to me. Jake O'Driscoll was another guy, yourself, Craig, actually going out to these seminars and going out and listening to people's perspectives, man, is so important. And if you think you've got all the answers, A, you're wrong, and B, again, you should probably lock the door and never come back, man. Like, it's just people are coming in, they trust you, man. They're paying you money.
Well, it's funny too, because like, I feel like when I started jiu-jitsu, which I couldn't, maybe like 2007 or maybe 2006, and we, you know, just fuck around. And, you know, we used to watch Stuart Cooper 80cc highlights, smoke cones, drive to training, allegedly drive to training, and then just throw down. And we didn't take it seriously at all. We were just having fun. But back then, you know, and it was a bit of the culture, I guess, of the scene then. It was, I mean, gym owners thought they were the Bloods and the other guys were the Crips or something. So there was, I remember, you know, we wouldn't talk to anybody else at other comps. You know, we had to squat up out the front and walk in together. And, you know, that's a cool, you feel like you're really part of a team, but seeing what the scene is like now, and, you know, I remember, I think it was my first match after I broke my leg, and just talking about mentors and stuff like that. I broke my leg. I think I competed less than a year later, and that was a big thing for me because a lot of people, you know, whether it was at work or, you know, anything, like a lot of people, friends that I had at the time, they were like, oh, well, I guess you're done now. And in my head, I was like, I have to compete again just so that one day when my daughter faces adversity, I can say, hey, look at this, look at my leg. I got back out there. And I was a purple belt then, and I didn't win that first match. And I still remember being at the weigh-ins, and, you know, I was confident. I'd just been at absolute for a long time. I was doing really well in that gym, and then I broke my leg, came back, started training with Miles and the boys at M16. And of course I get Farouk, and I was like, he's not that big, you know. I remember I was like 94 kilos, and I was in my work clothes, I had my work boots on. I was just fucking around at the weigh-ins like an idiot. And then I remember when he stepped on the scales, they read out 117 kilos, and I was like, oh. And then I was 94. And, you know, Farouk was a good dude. He didn't, you know, anybody could have just jumped on that leg that I'd broken, and it would have been a panic tap. But, you know, he beat me. I can't remember how he beat me, but it was, you know, I remember I pulled guard and he sat straight down onto my leg, and I was like, whew, it's probably not where I want the leg that I just broke under this 117 kilo black belt. Yeah. But, you know, I was, I have been known to throw a tanty or two after I've lost a match, and that's part of the reason I stepped away from competing, because I'm like, if I can't act right after, I don't deserve to be out there. And you pulled me aside, and, you know, we'd interacted over the years, but not like anything major. And you pulled me aside and you had a real good chat. You didn't have to. You know, I remember I fucking walked off the mats. I threw my shoe at a big painting in the Aqaba, and I was like, oh, fuck, I'm glad that didn't break it. But then you pulled me aside and you had a really good chat with me, and I was like, fuck, this dude who's obsessed with Batman is a really good guy. And I feel like we've grown our relationship from there. And, you know, as creepy as it is when I stare at your biceps, but the whole thing now is just working together, trying to grow the scene in Adelaide, and especially within our unit. And, you know, nothing is, you know, there's a picture where there's like Miles, Moody, you, Warren, Conway, and me, and we're all just standing there, and, you know, I think Warren's necking a beer. And, that picture's cool because I'm like, look at that. We've all been training for so long, and now we're all linked up. And it's just it's bizarre to think about from back when we first started to where we're all at now. And then, you know, all those names that you said before, like, you know, Bino, Dave DeConti, all these guys are still around.
They're still there.
And, you know, unfortunately we lost Mike, but...
yeah, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, you know, the SABJJ have continued on, and, you know, they've seeing Greg Toyama,
come forward
Gavin,
in solidarity. I love seeing...
Yeah, and, you know, to have Greg at our tournaments, you know, he's come to the last 2 or 3, I believe. And, you know, that guy will have him and his family will have tickets to any show we ever put on because they gave us the start.
Well, man, they gave everyone the start. They were the people, you know, Dave DeConti and Greg Toyama were the people behind gaining the first rights to put on AFBJJ competitions in the state of South Australia. They were behind it before they handed it over to Aruda. And Greg Toyama and Dave DeConti were behind MMA Down Under 1, MMA Down Under 2, you know what I mean? And then we were all involved in getting the rules passed and also to sanction the cage, you know, for pro rules. I appeared in a video with Dave DeConti that was presented to the, you know, the council to try and get the rules passed, you know what I mean? Like, I remember all of this. And, you know, we don't forget. And touching on what you said, man, like, I remember that night. I remember when you had that match. And what I saw was you as an individual. And I've told you this before, like, I do see a lot of myself in you, but for better or for worse, man, your brother is one of the most visible characters in the world when it comes to the sport of grappling. You don't really have a choice but to walk in a shadow to a certain extent, and that can potentially take a toll. And what I saw that night was the toll. And no one on the planet knows what it's like to walk in your shoes. No one can really relate. And so I didn't try to relate to you in that moment. What I did was try to relay to you that the reason you feel like you feel is because you care about this stuff. And I knew that you were going to forge your own pathways forward in the sport, and you were going to contribute in a really meaningful way. And look at where you are, man. Look at what you've done with the M16 Open, with the opportunities that you've afforded athletes from across South Australia and now Australia. You know, we talk about what we've done for people, or we don't talk about it. But guys are out there right now, like Declan Moody and like Luke Marco, who we really care about and want to see do well. So we put it, we put the money where the mouth is, and we actually start getting these guys opportunities. And you've been doing that, you know, behind the scenes and now not behind the scenes. And I'm super proud of you, man. I don't have any right to be proud of you, but I'm super proud of you. I need some
tissues,
like it's because, as you said, we care about what we do. And the best that I can do is tap into that analytical side of my brain, and that picture that I was standing in with all of you guys, with Warren and Conway and Miles and yourself. I want to live up to that picture because, you know, Declan Moody's also in that picture. And what they bring to the table, I don't feel like I had brought that to the table yet. So now with MatLab, that's what I'm doing. And I put in a serious amount of effort every single day, and I take it very seriously because I see coaches have a sub-meta account, or they watch an instructional and they'll teach exactly what they just saw. And that is lazy, man. That is lazy. That is not what coaches are there to do. I'm not having a go at anyone, but like this to me is lazy. And you've asked me about my methodology in the past. You've asked me about my philosophy regarding jiu-jitsu and coaching and this type of thing. And I've always maintained the idea that what you should essentially try to do is teach what you've learned from something, from the process. So like, I'll give you an example. The position Keymaster, right? Quite popular. Lachlan Giles just dropped a series of instructionals on Submeta about Keymaster. And Lachlan Giles is one person who's playing the Keymaster style at the moment. So you could go and look at that and be like, cool, I want to teach that to my students. Or you could look at that and go, well, who else is doing this? All right, well, Tommy Langak had kind of started this up in the gi. Austin Sinos is playing Keymaster a lot, and he's playing it in a different style to how Lachlan is playing it because they have different body types, right? Also, Kaya Rudolph has been playing this really heavily. In his last match against Anton Manenko, he was able to replicate specific strategies. Now, Lachlan obviously plays it for K entries. He's very nuanced, but he's sort of heavy on K guard entries. Austin, being longer, kind of pulls back and plays it for bolo entries and plays it for like crab rides off of bolo entries. Whereas Kaya kind of plays the inside spin for like almost tornado style entries to invert on either leg. Why is this happening? Okay, we'll cross-reference it, we study it, and that is what we teach to the students, right? So the technical theme that we had on Keymaster at the MatLab, we work in themes like a 3 or 4 week build and then a 5th week of revision across every primary learning class. For Keymaster, I kind of broke it down. I'm like, okay, so you have your far side control variables, which is going to be K, 2-on-1s, drags, cross armpit grips on the far side, and then you have your subset of entries and options that you'll have from there. All right, like, you know, moving across the body. And if we can't reach that far, it's likely going to be an inside spin. Then we have near side handles and controls, 2-on-1s, false reap grips. And if we can't get those opportunities for attacks working with our near side grips, it's likely going to be the default out to outside spins and berimbolas and crab rides or some simple wrestle ups. So I broke it down. It's like far side, near side, inside, outside. This is Keymaster. Now, that's a very broad overview, but what do we do as an academy? We take what someone like Joseph Chen would do, and we take this tinkering approach. So you've got the technical instruction. All right, this is what this is. This is the concept behind the position. This is the structure of the position, and these are the intended functions of the position. Team, let's go. What do we find out through this live drilling specific round process that we engage in as a team? What we found out is that having far side K and a near side wrap on the false reap is very advantageous if you do it at the same time, especially for no-gi, right? So this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. I'm like, I take this stuff very, very seriously, and the outcomes that we're getting in the academy is the thing that inspires me to keep doing it like that, because the students are getting so much out of it. And if I can be a vessel for them to learn and to just run with it, like my whole job is to lay a platform out for them that they can just springboard off of and be better than I could ever have hoped to have been. And this process has not happened overnight, man. Like, I think I had my run of hard matches, hard times. After the match with Jake O'Driscoll, I had to really gut check and think about, well, what are my processes? What are my systems here competitively? And I revamped everything about my entire style. I start my matches completely differently to how I used to, because I understand I need to find a translatable style, something that works in IBJJF, submission only, something that works in ADCC, or at least it isn't too far away from my natural game plan. So now when we do competition work, this is the type of ideology that I try to give to the students. Like, we're gonna do comp class after you teach tonight here at this academy, and some of the things that we do will be scenario work. All right, we're single leg X, I'm on top, I am 3 points down, there's 2 minutes to go, what do we do? Because your natural techniques and your natural strategies have to be conducive to success in a competitive arena. And it'll be like what you know how to do and what you want to do versus what you have to do. And we want to make the natural problem solving process come through the middle, and so you can solve any issue very easily without recruiting so much energy to blast through positions or force things. So like, the way that we set up the class structure and the schedule, I have such a luxury to have every single day that we do no-gi. So I set up the Monday nights with tech theme specific rounds, and everything we're doing in the other tech themes, we just drill immediately in live positional sparring, specific rounds. Straight after that's like a regular no-gi class. On Tuesdays, the primary learning, one of the primary learning classes with fundamentals, and then wrestling after that gets a little bit higher intensity on that night. Wednesday, we drop it back down. We dial the intensity down purposefully for guard systems to work a little bit more technically, because we just did wrestling the night before.
What's that?
Yeah, I know you've never heard of that. It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
So Thursday we start to bring it up again, but it's still a primary learning night. We just switch it. So on Tuesday we have fundamental no-gi and then wrestling, and then on Thursday we have fundamental wrestling and then no-gi, right? By Friday, usually what it is a leg lock specific class. So we're making sure we target that area as a team every week, and then we go right into comp class after that. So it's going to be higher intensity. Saturday you can chill. The whole setup is meant to be, you can train every day, you can have higher intensity and lower intensity days, you can have technical focuses, and you have opportunities to have clear, concise, long-term planned technical instruction mixed with specific rounds where we work on things as a team. And I believe in it, man. I believe in the process. I believe that it works, and I put my heart and soul into it, man. And again, it's because of the inspiration that I've taken from being part of the Jones Jiu Jitsu affiliation thing. It's so fucking weird to say something like that, because that's not what it is. Like, we're all friends, and we all have a passion for the sport, and we all want to contribute in the best way we possibly can. And my mind now, as an older grappler, someone who's been a black belt for a long time, I'm not getting any more belts, man. What am I going to do? I'm going to compete to the best of my ability, and I'm going to contribute to the best of my ability. And again, if I'm not doing that, I'll lock the doors. And I'll walk away.
Yeah, no, you've always had a good mindset for it, and then, you know, over the years, seeing you compete, step away, come back. You know, I remember after you lost to Jake, we spoke a fair bit, and you know, just like anybody, you took it hard, but you also, like you said, revamped everything, and you know, that is a big part of being in this like unit. Like, we're the loosest fucking affiliation you could ever envision.
Straps like, are you guys doing stuff on the weekend? Yeah.
But like, it is just one of those things where we can all, you know, we've got this team thing, and we all get inspiration from each other. And you know, I feel like maybe some of the bigger affiliations that are out there, you know, obviously they've got connections and stuff like that, but, you know, we're lucky because we can just ask each other stuff. And then, you know, one thing I've always said as well is like, and to anybody that asks me questions about stuff in the gym, if I don't know the answer, I've got all these other people to go to. And then I can also just fucking slide in Craig's DMs and ask him. He won't always reply, but he...
it might be a dick pic, but...
Oh, God, fucking... Yeah, lots of heinous videos. But,
I heard he's asking you for them so he can pass it off.
Yeah, well, that's just because of the size of the hog, you know what I mean? But, it's... it's a...
just derail the shit.
Yeah, derail it. But, yeah, like... We've got such a good little unit going, and, you know, we've just got another gym up in the Gold Coast now as well, a guy called Luca. He's a really cool dude.
That's awesome, man. Look forward to meeting him.
Yeah, no, he's a good dude. You don't want to take a shirtless photo next to him, that's for sure.
One of those guys.
He's been blessed with the looks. But yeah, it's a good fucking thing we've got going. I'm excited to do these next 4 weeks here. Now, obviously, I can't not mention this.
Oh, fuck.
Right.
What is this?
Right. You don't know whether I'm going to ask about your bicep routine here or Batman, but your Batman obsession, right?
Yeah.
I've been to your house. I've seen you've got a glass case of the good guys, and then you've got a glass case of the bad guys. I need to know your favorite Batman story. When you think the Joker was the most evil, and why, while we're on evil, what scares you the most about Jackie? Jackie's his wife, by the way.
I'll tackle the Jackie question first.
Yeah.
What scares me the most about Jackie is her striking beauty. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
She gets up in the morning and she's the glamorous.
She is in here, guys. All right. It might have been a different answer.
Literally, the scariest thing about Jackie is she can look at you and read your face and know exactly what you're thinking at any given time, and that's one of the things I love about her as well. So my favorite Batman story is Batman Year One, for sure. Batman Year One is the quintessential revamping of Batman, and it's the best depiction of the origin story. If I was to give any advice on like some of the cooler stories or the stories that have really resonated with me, Batman: The Golden Dawn, and sort of just after he returned to prominence after the return of Bruce Wayne and Batman Incorporated, like this sort of happened after R.I.P., like the death of Batman. Those stories for me were extremely cool. And then there was more things like Court of Owls and really cool stories like Under the Red Hood, like the big ones, right? The really big ones. One of the best stories told in Batman is The Black Glove and also The Black Mirror. They sort of run concurrently. They're two very underrated stories, but Batman Year One is absolutely the best. And in terms of when Joker was at his most evil, I think this is likely consensus with anyone in the Batman universe, is the Killing Joke, where he rocks up on Barbara Gordon's doorstep to take some photos. And I can't say any more, otherwise this is going to get taken down from YouTube.
And obviously, I know the first choice would be the George Clooney Batman movie, but what is your favorite Batman movie?
Oh man, you talking like live action or animated?
live action.
I mean, I like The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger. Like it's hard to go past performances of that caliber. And like in terms of a movie, I know how I feel when I watch that movie, right? It's super rewatchable for the performances of all the characters. I think the other movies are really good. I think Robert Pattinson did a fantastic job. Very often it comes down to subject matter. Like as an example, Jack Nicholson had a lot of really good subject matter to work with the Joker, like a Joker origin story. Whether he executed it like he wanted to or not, he actually brought himself into this character and added a lot to it. So I think he did an amazing job with it. Whereas like some of the other Batman characters, they're drawing off of source material, that was a directorial choice that isn't great. They could have done Batman Year One. They could have done some really cool stories, but they didn't do them. So the fact that I think Robert Pattinson had potentially the best source material to draw from, and very similar with Heath Ledger's Joker as well. He's working off the Lee Bermejo and Brian Azzarello Joker, which is like an established Joker that makes you think about where did this guy come from. He's dangerous, he's potent, he knows how to use weapons. Like he knows how to organize. Like it gives you questions about his origin story without answering them. And if you want to go read that Joker story by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo, that is That's amazing one.
All right, I'm gonna have to. I remember I got all the Batman animated movies, and I think I was sending you I reckon that was during COVID, and I was just sending you messages every day. I'm like, oh my god, I just watched this one.
And I'm like, what about this?
You're
like, oh my god.
And then I found the Red Hood, and I was like,
Red Hood's amazing, man. It is really amazing. But one of the things I always think about is like with Batman and stuff like that, and superheroes in general, you draw inspiration from a lot of odd areas. And I've literally been collecting Batman since I was 8 years old. It's like, he's my best friend. The people are like, oh, Batman, it's shit. I'm like, yeah, all right. But like, it's still...
No, it's not.
It's still like a part of me. Like all of my tattoos are pop culture. They're not cool, you know what I mean? There's like Warhammer 40K and Batman and Dr. Manhattan and stuff like that. Because I still think that, things like The Watchmen is incredibly good. There's other things I like, you know what I mean, as well. But, that's how it goes. One thing I was going to say actually is with the link up that we have with the Jones Jiu Jitsu affiliation, a lot of people from across the state of South Australia really benefit from what essentially is what you alluded to, the direct line to Craig and B Team. So think about the caliber of seminars that we've had in the state of South Australia, just based on that link up, like Joseph Chen and Jeremy Skinner and Declan himself and Craig himself are coming down directly to here. Like Craig comes back here to see the family and stuff. And take care of your daughter for you.
Spends hundreds of dollars on her.
And then she's like, what, Dad? What's going on? Where's my gifts? When's Uncle Craig coming back?
Well, he's promised her a trip to Japan.
God, that is just hurtful. Hurtful behavior.
We actually, when we were going to go over to CJR2 and link up with Gabby Garcia and go to Disneyland with her.
Man, what a video vlog that would be. What a vlog that
Gabby Garcia episode is in the works.
Oh, man. I think probably the most interesting seminar, I mean, I actually love the Jeremy Skinner seminar because he's just a really good guy and really ready and willing to give information. If you look at Atomic Dojo and what he's done with his online service, he's answering questions all day, sending videos all day. Like, he goes the extra mile for everyone. And after rolling with him at the seminar, he actually gave me a lot of respect and a bit of perspective. He was like, hey, bro, where's that been, mate? You know what I mean? Like, he's like, all your super fights I've been watching, you didn't do any of the stuff that you just did with me in this role. Like, are you not sure about? Like, it made me open my eyes a little bit. But easily the coolest thing was just watching Joseph Chen, you know what I mean? And experiencing Joseph Chen, and the fact that we get to have him come down.
Is that nice, is it? Little bastard.
No, just me watching him, like, not toy with you or decimate you or demoralize you.
What's worse than that? Because that's what I was. You know, he's
I'm
not
trying
even
to find a word
trying.
that encapsulates what he did to you without getting us pulled down from YouTube again. But no, I mean, amazing. And his brain, the way it works, like his extremely autistic brain and the way that it works, like, it's amazing. He's actually a phenom. But I remember having a chat with Jackie after, because he just goes through, you know, hours and hours and hours of gold, like genius level shit. And one of the things someone asked him a question, he's like, yes, that could be potentially problematic. I'm like, fuck, man. I'm like, you know what else is potentially problematic? Your social life. I just want to see Joseph Chen, like, at like a blue light disco, like, and there's a girl giving him eyes from across the room. It's like, oh, she's looking at me. This is potentially problematic. I just want to see him feature on Love on the Spectrum, and we just get a real, like, insight as to the inner workings of, like, because he'd be entertaining.
He'd have the girl down on the ground, and he'd be practicing passing on it. You know what I mean?
She'd be like, get in my guard. He'd be like, no, this...
We have tried at great lengths to corrupt that young boy, and Craig especially, and you can't get him.
No. He's above it, dude. I honestly, like, people probably, like, I'm talking shit on Joseph right now because I can, because that's the only thing I'll ever get over him. He is literally the future. Him and Mika and Owen Jones, I think, just based on their trajectory.
Owen Jones, easily corruptible.
Well, yeah, he's already corrupted, but, like, the guy's 20?
Yes.
Okay. His mentality and his mindset towards training and his ability to perform, you think about the trajectory that those guys are on, they are going to surpass what Gordon Ryan has been able to achieve technically, and they are going to change the way that people think and look at grappling. Man, I can see it coming. I honestly believe in that. I can see it coming.
And what's good about those two, right, is if you looked at both of them, you're like, I could get their lunch money easily. You know what I mean? They're at victim weight. They, you know, Owen with his bleached hair, like, you know what I mean? You feel like he should just be kicking a soccer ball. And then Joseph, like, you wouldn't have... He was that kid at school with the laptop out front of the library waiting for lunch to start to go in there. And I wouldn't feel confident driving my Nissan Navara at 100 kilometers an hour directly at Joseph. I still wouldn't feel confident I'd get him. He would sweep me.
He'd sweep.
He'd hit it with a butterfly sweep and then armbar it or something. You know, I'd be out of that car so quick. But
they're on another level, man. And all credit to them. These things don't happen by accident. You think, oh, they're so talented, they're so this, they're so that. Sure, maybe a bit. I've seen lots of talented people come through the doors, man, but none of them stuck like this. You know, so there's something different about these types of guys, and we need to acknowledge that, but also try to understand that as well. Like, if it's not an accident and there is methodology, then what is that methodology, and how can we bring parts of that to this academy? Like, we did the Joseph Chen seminar. I did day 1. I didn't quite get to day 2, but day 1 was based on his float passing over, you know, basically essentially moving through HQ into a single butterfly half guard camp that he uses to essentially shut down every movement that you have at your disposal. So he gives you this position where all of the outcomes are known to him, and he directly just moves. He keeps you in a camp cycle, and he just goes straight to mount. He just goes straight to leg drag. It's not difficult for him to see that. It's easy for him to see that. Did someone teach that to him? Yeah, maybe they taught him what single butterfly half was. Maybe they taught him how to do leg drag pass. Maybe they taught him what good mount strategies are and how to do an omoplata. But his perspective on how to put those things together is completely his own, and based on his own methodology of skill acquisition and learning. And then the way that he teaches that, that's a whole different beast. Like, how someone like that expresses new information to other people, that's the stuff we've got to be looking at as the next phase or the next evolution of the sport. And that's kind of what I was alluding to with like Owen Jones and Joseph being that next thing, because there's a lot of speech and talk in the sport right now about ecological versus sheer instruction, and clearly you need both. I think it's not really an argument. I think you need both, but in what format, with what volume, with what intensity, and with what intention as well. And I think guys are in the scene right now that are answering that with their actions. And I think Joseph is the prime example.
Yeah, there's pivotal points in my jiu-jitsu journey, and, you know, going to Absolute, being under Giles, getting to train with Craig and Lockie Warren every day, and then everybody else that was in there. And then, you know, one of the biggest besides the trip to B team, but the biggest was when we flew Chen down after ADCC trials, and he showed me
people's hearts.
he showed me the pinch headlock, and I was like, oh shit, I don't even know what I'm doing in butterfly guard.
Real, and that is a part of your game now.
That changed everything for me. Yeah,
it's amazing. That's amazing. I don't want to I could literally be postured up on your hooks and you can pinch headlock me down from basically the roof.
Yeah, no, the way he showed it, and then, you know, me and Moody, man, he came down and he was just there every day. And he actually said that was like the first time he's ever been flown anywhere. And, you know, I asked Craig, I was like, what do I ask this little nerd? And he's like, just ask him about his pinch headlock. And he changed. Me and Moody were in there. You know, I'd finished work. I think, no, I might have been off the tools then, and every day we were just asking him, and he was showing us, teaching us, you know, to get better at these positions, you have to have fun, you know, start there, you know, have a bit of a muck around. Oh shit, what did you do there? I put my hip pressure here. Okay, so I have to be careful of that. So, yeah, Joseph Chen is the future. He's the light, and he will defeat Gordon Ryan if Gordon stops pooping his pants.
Not likely.
On that note, thank you for the chat, my friend.
Of course, man.
I wanted to get you on.
Good,
You've got a great mind for jiu-jitsu, Batman and biceps, and
I'm happy to help, and I'm honestly very glad that we had this opportunity today, and very, very glad that you're coming and you're going to be part of the leadership group at MatLab, and you're going to be showing these young guys who the big dog is.
Well, you say that. You say that, and until the culture change.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Don't influence Lath too hard.
Do you know why Miles is so grey? Ever since I stepped on, and all the out-of-pocket shit I say and do, that age Miles. So he's 37, 38, but with the Jones years, he's actually 15 years older.
So at this point, I'm 36. So you're telling me I'm going to age 5 years in what?
Just in this 1 hour.
Oh my God.
In this next hour. Yeah, for sure.
Looking forward to it, man. Thank
Legend.
you, brother. Have
Thank
a
you,
good
Razz.
one.